want to talk to you today about the power of automation when it comes to your client experience. So you probably don't know this, but your clients are begging you to automate your practice. If we haven't had the chance to meet yet, I'm Jamie Gruhl, and after helping over 500 tax and accounting practices implement automation with TaxDome, I can confidently say that automation is the only way to increase your profit and time freedom in your practice. And what I wanted to share today is a little bit of a backstory. So I am an accountant by education, and I spent 3 years doing accounting work. So for me, accounting and tax were not my calling, but I went in a different route and ended up with a really great background in healthcare IT, doing implementation of software. And that has brought me here today because I'm able to break down software and make it simple for people who are technically minded and able to do things themselves. They're very smart. This is a very smart industry. You have to be to understand the tax code, right? But breaking down and making implementation of software simple. And so I know that shift. But what I wanted to share is that I had an accountant back where we came from in Bend, Oregon, and we found this guy through referral. Our friend said that he's great, and we needed somebody to help us with our accounting each year and preparing our returns to submit because we had a small business, owned a farm, and had like more complex taxes than we had previously. So we went to this guy and he was great, and we sat down with him and had a conversation with him. He was a youngish guy, he was about our age. He seemed like the guy, right? So we jumped in with him. We worked with him for almost 10 years. And in that time of working with him, he did not have the best client experience. So I want to tell you, and it might resonate with you because you might be doing the same thing. In the time that we were working with him, we received a packet. It was a paper packet that was quite thick, had 25 to 30 pages in it. It had our organizer. It had a very bland engagement letter that was very not formatted friendly. And it was just really hard to read, a lot of letters, no spacing, and it was very difficult. So we would get this organizer early January, maybe late December. And I can tell you it went on the pile. And that would be the only communication that we would get from him. And so when April would roll around on like April 1st-ish, I'd be like, all right, I have procrastinated enough. I need to get my tax stuff into him. The challenge that I had with getting my stuff to him was, one, I had to prepare all my P&Ls and make sure I had all my documents together. And then I had to get in my car and I had to drive them up to his office, which was 45 minutes each way. And I had to drop them in the slot at the office. And then I would return home and I would wait for them to contact us and say, okay, we got your return done, so we're going to send it to you. They would send it to us in an email with a PDF on it with our social security numbers in it. And they would send it to us to print off, sign, scan back to them, and get them going on the actual submission of our return. But I want to share that with you because it was not the best experience for me. And I want to show you today how automation can transform not only the effort that they put in to creating that paper packet that I never looked at, I never utilized. I threw on the desk and I said, I'm going to send him all of my P&L stuff, all of my documents that I know I need to get to him, but I don't need that packet. I don't even know what to do with that packet. So it just was a bunch of papers with information on it, and it never really afforded me anything. So they were spending thousands of dollars sending those out every year. Hundreds of man hours probably putting them together for their hundreds of clients. They had several partners and a lot of clients regionally, and they were not communicating with me. So they were getting my stuff at the last minute. And I know my tax professional was working 14 to 16-hour days in those last days of the year up to April 15th because they weren't communicating with their clients what their cutoff dates were and having boundaries with their clients that said, if we don't have it by this time, we're going to have to put you into an extension and we'll finish it this summer. Extensions are not a bad thing, right? You know that, but do your clients know that? So if somebody hears extension, they think they're in trouble. There's an emotional attachment to that. But how having those boundaries and automation really can transform your client experience, and you can stay in contact with your people and you can send reminders, and it's going to transform the way your clients are feeling. Because I would screech into April and be like, holy cow, feeling a lot of stress, feeling a lot of pressure, knowing that the deadlines were coming, not knowing when I had to have my stuff to him. I felt a lot of things as his client. So if you're not communicating with your clients consistently and regularly and reminding them about your cutoff dates and reminding them about your deadlines and reminding them about your policies on extensions and educating them that extensions are not bad, your clients are probably feeling the same. So let's take a look at this. And I want to show you how TaxDome does work. So I'm going to share my screen here. So what I want to share with you first is how going from those paper packets can be completely eliminated and turned into a few clicks. Now, there is setup that has to be done on TaxDome, and I can promise you it's less than the effort that you're putting in to creating those paper packets each year. So what we have is I am looking right now at a basic tax preparation pipeline in TaxDome. This is a pipeline. A pipeline is essentially an automated workflow. They call them pipelines in TaxDome. And the pipeline is broken into many steps. We call those stages. And each stage represents the completion of a step in your process. So, for example, this kickoff email all the way through this stage here, this contract signed and documents requested stage, those are all automated to have the client complete them. And what that does is it allows us, with the click of a button, to add all of our clients in here, send them a kickoff email that asks them, are you going to re-engage with us this year? If yes, fantastic. We're going to move you to the next step. So follow our simple instructions and we'll move you to the next step. In the next step, we send them what we like to call as a communication agreement. And what it is, it's a summary of your engagement letter. So if you're struggling with your clients understanding the key things you need them to know, like cutoff deadlines, what happens if they miss that deadline, what is an extension and when will it be filed on their behalf, and what does that process look like, there are some very key elements you could pull out of your engagement letter and create what we call a communications agreement. So what we've done is we've added an extra step. So once they sign that agreement, they're going to move to our next step of our process. So I'm not able in the short time that we have today to show you nitty-gritty pieces of this, but I can tell you this is a very client-friendly process. We have a lot of our clients raving about what their clients are saying about the portal. So it is very user-friendly on the portal side. Then once they do that, they're going to actually receive the full contract, the full engagement letter. And this full engagement letter is going to give them the legal jargon, if you will, that is going to cover you as a service provider and provide all of the information around data requirements and retention and all of the things that you need to have in your engagement letters per your insurance. And that's the other thing these automated workflows can do is you can actually customize the workflow based on the type of client that this is. So all of your S Corps and your C Corps that have different deadlines, they can receive a different communication plan than your individuals who have an April 15th deadline versus a March 15th deadline. So it is very easy to make sure that everybody's getting communicated with properly and consistently, which means that there are less cracks for people to fall into, less upset clients because you're communicating effectively for everyone in the same way. So once they have paid their invoice, you can see we have the invoice down here and we have our proposals. We also have a message that just gives them some more instructions, the answering of questions available in the messages so they don't necessarily have to come to us. If somebody has a question about how do I complete this engagement letter? How do I complete this invoice? Why am I paying an invoice this year? We have all of that baked into our messages, which automatically go out to the client. So we're trying to be more proactive about answering questions using the automation to do that for us. So once they have paid and signed that engagement letter, the job will move. This is a job. We'll move to the next stage. What happens here is we're going to be sending an organizer. The organizers in TaxDome are where we get to have an asynchronous interview. Back in the old days when clients used to bring their documents in and you used to sit down with them, you used to ask them a series of questions. They would then say something like, oh yeah, I had a baby this year. And you'd be like, okay, tell me more about that. Great. Do you have a social security number? Yes. Great. I need to get that. Oh, do you have a social security card? Yes, great. Can I get a copy of that? Those are all the elements that you have to go through with your clients. Organizers and TaxDome do that. We leverage what's called conditional logic. So not every client is going to see, did you have a baby this year? Only those people that say, I have dependents. Awesome. So we can make it so that only that question shows to people who have identified as having dependents, getting those details that you wouldn't normally be able to get with that paper document that you were sending to them in a packet. This transforms your ability to do the preparing of the returns effectively and efficiently without having to go back and forth with your client 50 times or learning about something really important after you've prepared that return and they're reviewing it with you. This transforms the efficiency of your practice. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about is that the fact that all of this happens without you having to do a thing, right? You get to load them in here and the clients will start moving forward on their own. All of a sudden, one client starts breaking free and moving forward through the process. And pretty soon it's your usual suspect, the one that is always the first to get their documents to you. They're ready to have it reviewed and they're ready to start the process of making sure you have all the documentation and then ultimately moving into preparing the return. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about is that there will be some people that as deadlines come closer, you're going to need to reach out to them. The nice thing about TaxDome is all along the way, when a client receives an action to do, we get to utilize automated reminders. Now, we have some best practices that save from some of the headaches that a lot of people go through in the trial and error of setting up their TaxDome. Now, we work with over 700 practices, so we hear all the creaklings and the eeks and the that didn't work so well, and we find the solution. So we are able to help you head off that stuff with our Workflows for Tax Pros program, where we get to do a done with you model of helping you work through setting up your TaxDome, giving you our best practices, answering your questions, helping you avoid the issues that people have had. One of these is if you send a message to a client, add a reminder to it. The client has to actually reply to turn that reminder off. So our best practice is don't add reminders to messages or chats that do not have an actual client task on them. That will ensure that your client is not getting pinged again and again. The thing about TaxDome, the thing about any practice management software, is it makes the management of your clients easier. It does not completely eliminate it. So what I wanted to point out is two things. One, the automated reminders. And the automated reminders are able to ping your clients for a set period of time to take an action. So we need to think about how many reminders do we want to set? Well, maybe every 6 days or 7 days, we send a reminder to the client so that they can be nudged into your organizer is still outstanding. You're not having to do that. You're not having to have your team do that. So that keeps you front of mind with your clients, and they're able to then get you the information and continue through your process. So that is number one. Number two is that I talked about the fact that it does human intervention in this. But what TaxDome does is, you can see I have all of these jobs that are in my pipeline at different stages. What I can do is, with the power of TaxDome, I can go into my clients list, look at my accounts, and they have this beautiful thing called filtering. And what filtering allows us to do is we can actually go and look at a specific pipeline. Here's a pipeline, here's my pipeline, and it has 17 stages. I'm actually able to, if I unclick this, I could go through and I can click just the kickoff ones and show all of those people who are between the kickoff has been sent to them, notifying them that it's time to get started with tax prep, and the organizer is not yet submitted to us. And I can actually say March 10th, I can send them a message and be like, reminder, March 15th is our cutoff. If you don't want to be put on extension, we recommend you get your things into us before March 15th. I can send them a message doing that. So I have filtered this down. I can then see these are all the accounts that have a job in that pipeline between these 2 points of my process. And now I can select all those, and I can either send an email or I can send a chat directly to them, where send a message. And I am able to send a custom message to them, say here, attention, deadline or cutoff, document cutoff, March 15th. And then I can put what I need them to do. I can say very clearly to them, you have been determined to still be outstanding the receipt of your documents so we can get started. You may have an engagement letter due, you may have an invoice outstanding, you may have an organizer outstanding. We must have these. Look, here in the portal, you can see in your take action section what you need to do. And it just redirects them back and lets them know that this deadline is coming. If my tax professional had told me that March 15th was his cutoff and he sent me a message on March 10th, you can bet your buttons I was probably staying up late on March 10th and 11th to get it all done, to upload to him into the portal and send it off so that he can get his stuff done. If you're interested in TaxDome, jump on it now and get things set up. All of our clients would tell you that. Don't wait until December to do this work. It takes time to get familiar. It takes time to do the setup. But we can help you with the setup, making that so easy that you're going to have it set up, your first pipeline, in just a handful of hours. We're redoing our program, Workflows for Tax Pros, right now to make it even more streamlined, even more efficient. And we used to be able to help people set it all up in, we said 20 hours, but we believe now we're getting it down to like 6 to 8 at the most. So if you are interested in Workflows for Tax Pros, you're in luck, because we're opening the doors again. If you feel like you want to burn it down every day, if you feel like you're overwhelmed, if you feel like your tax seasons are just taking it all out of you, this is where you need to go. Because I can tell you, my partner, Jessica, I can tell you many of our clients, including Allison and Margaret. And until then, I'll see you in the Facebook group. Have a great day.